If I believe there's a reason for this pain I'm going through, if I believe that leaving me was all that you could do, if I believe that I can feel you by my side, I'll make it through the night. If I believe that time will teach me how to find my way, if I believe that broken hearts grow stronger every day, if I believe that now you're dancing across the sky, I just might get by. You help me through somehow, get me through somehow. If I believe that in my dreams I'll always feel your touch, if I believe that memories won't always hurt this much, if I believe that I will see your face again, I can wait till then. If I believe I'll hold you in my arms again, I can wait. I know.
Good evening, Somerville. Welcome to the Somerville Overcoming Addiction Show, and my name is Joanne. And tonight's guest is Matt Mitchell from Somerville Cares About Prevention, or Somerville Prevention Services.
Yep, thank you for having me back. It's my second time around.
You know what? We're going to have you keep coming on and giving us the progress of what you're doing here in Somerville.
I'm totally okay with that.
I know you are. I'm really on board with what Matt has just amazed me at what he's done in the short time he's been here. How long have you been here?
Just celebrated my 1-year anniversary, actually.
Wow. And the one thing that I'm really, really happy about is all the Narcan training that you've been doing.
For sure, for sure.
So tell them what you've been doing.
Absolutely. So since I started, it's something that Sarah Harris, the public health nurse manager, and I were kind of tasked to do early on. So what we started doing was tracking in the city where we would want to start offering these trainings. And the basis of the training is to provide easy overdose prevention techniques, individuals to learn how to recognize, respond, and how to notice if someone may be experiencing an overdose. And so, we developed this training, her and I did the PowerPoint, and found all these clips that could work. And then we started doing outreach to businesses, and we started calling, some of the people that we've made connections with over the years, or at least over her years, not mine. And then we just started setting up trainings, and we started with local businesses. So we started in like the East Somerville area, or the Union Square area, East Somerville, and now we're kind of branching slowly but surely. But since I think about October, November, we've trained about 180 individuals in the city and have distributed about 100 doses of Narcan.
I think that's great.
Which has been awesome. The businesses have been very receptive to it. It's nice when people start talking about it, and then word spreads, and now we're kind of in demand. Sarah and I joke about that, where when people hear about our training, they're like, "Oh, we need to have that at our place too." And so we started with just doing the specialized like business trainings, and we're hoping to get more of those. But the really exciting thing that we've been doing is getting community trainings for people. So we've been offering them free to anybody that lives in Somerville. Even if you don't live in Somerville, you're welcome to come. And we'll just train you on what you need to know, how to respond, and then also distribute Narcan so you can carry it with you. And so we do have a couple of those events coming up, especially the community events. So on August 8th, actually, in partnership with the Somerville Media Center over at Vox Pop.
Awesome.
Which is an awesome space. They have opened it up to us. We've already done one with them back in July, and we had a pretty good turnout. We had some individuals just kind of walking by. We're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing in there?" And they stayed for the entire training. So we did that training, but we have another one coming up on August 8th between 6 and 7. It starts at 6 at 431 Artisan Way in Assembly Row. And we'll do the same thing. We'll train as many people who can attend. It's a pretty big space, so anybody watching is more than welcome to join. And that's going to be specifically in Assembly Row. So we're hoping that some of the businesses will come out and some of the people who live in that area.
Well, I usually go. I've been going to a lot of them shows. I actually go over there to show Sam does his haunting.
Very cool.
I've been going on that one. But no, I'd like to come. I mean, I go to a lot of Narcan trainings. It's good. It's good to learn. I have never had to use Narcan yet, but I like to keep it on hand in case I do need to use it.
Yeah, and what we do is we kind of give people a kit, so it's not just the Narcan, but it's also a face shield, so that in the event that they would have to give CPR or rescue breaths, they can have that as well.
You know, that's really amazing.
It's
because most of them just give you the dose.
Yep. And we think, you know, what's going to make somebody feel most comfortable to intervene. You know, some people, they're so busy with their time. Some people don't want to intervene because they don't know the person or they don't know what they may be experiencing.
Well, because first of all, they have the the myth that they're going to catch something.
Yep.
Which they've done testing and there's lots of data that says that's not possible.
A simple, if you put a sleeve over your mouth and breathe into it, something that's breathable, it solves that problem. Our public health nurse, Sarah, that we mentioned, that's one of the first things that she covers, because a lot of people are like, well, you know, I don't know the person. What if they may have something that I can contract? Very simple to just put something over it. And
well, isn't it? It's true that hepatitis C is you can only get that through intercourse, and not from saliva.
Yep. And I think that's the hard thing. People kind of hear things, they don't really know the truth, and that's a lot of the purpose of our training, is to correct some of those things that people are maybe confused about or not sure about. And the other big thing that we hear people say that they're concerned about is how the person's going to respond after they give their Narcan.
That's true.
Are they going to yell at me, or are they going to attack me? And
well, you know, it's funny. I went to one with a friend. She had done it over in Charlestown, and the one thing she says is that, well, you give your dose of Narcan, but you wait. You don't give another one right away, because it's basically the breathing technique, and that's what they need is air. They need the oxygen more than anything, because if they're not breathing and they don't have that air going in, then you could end up being brain dead in 8 minutes. Well, not brain dead, but...
I mean, you are acting as the breathing ventilation system in that point, so the big thing is keep air into people, breath. It's a little bit different from what they're teaching now in CPR, where they're saying more compressions, but for someone who's experiencing overdose, their brain is physically losing the ability to send the signals to their body to function.
Right. It's going to sleep.
It's going to sleep, and if you're intervening, you're going to need to know that you have the breaths, except the Narcan, that's definitely the most important thing.
Right.
But the breaths are going to be even more important for the person's functioning of their brain. And I want to make sure I dispel the rumor. You know, there was a study that was done about how people react when they after a dose of Narcan was administered, and by far the most common reaction is just neutral. You know, the person's a little confused, a little out of it, not really sure what was going on.
And I was going to say something too about that, because she also mentioned that if you're excited and you're yelling and screaming, and when they're coming out, they may react because of that.
They match that.
Not because of the Narcan that was given to them.
Yep. And so what we've really tried to do with our training is to make people feel more comfortable, so they're a little bit more calm in that moment. You're not going to be absolutely calm because it's going to be very, very stressful.
Now, I have a question again.
That.
The dose that you give them, is it just the one that you automatically just put in the nostrils?
Yes.
Because the one that you had to put together,
So
to me, that was,
when we do our training, Sarah and I have examples of each of them. So it's kind of progressed over time. So the one you're talking about is the one you had to assemble, and
Right.
it's about 45 pieces. And we always make the reference of, like, imagine trying to do all of that in about 3 minutes. And Sarah, who's a nurse and training by nurse, even she struggles sometimes putting it together. And so we usually start with that one, so people are like, God, I hope that's not the one that I have to use. And then we go into the nasal spray version, which is the one that's primarily being distributed now.
and it's also a larger dose.
It is. It's 4 milligrams,
Right.
Which is a stronger dose than the assembled version. But it's also just
How many
so much
were in the
easier.
assemble? Was it 2 or 1?
Milligrams. I think it was about 2, maybe like 2.5 milligrams, something
Okay.
around that. But it was a little bit. It's not going to say that it's not as effective. If you have it, use it.
Oh, of course.
But 4
Even
milligrams.
if they're expired, they still work.
Yep. And I think that with the milligram, it's especially if fentanyl's present, it may, fentanyl's very strong, and we could probably spend a whole show on fentanyl.
Right.
But that Narcan, the 4 milligrams, can really help with that. It may take a couple doses for it to
Yeah.
happen, but the more that you have it available, the better.
Well, maybe we'll have to do another show just on that.
Hey, there you go.
But it was also about how fentanyl or carfentanil, sometimes the people end up getting, they react like looking like a wooden,
Oh, yes, yes.
they tighten up
Yep.
so that their hands are just, sometimes in front of the sternum where you're supposed to sometimes rub the sternum.
The sternum rub. Yep. Yeah, I think that's tough for folks, especially because the sternum rub is supposed to be the one where if they're not responding to that pain, 'cause it's pretty painful to do to
Yes.
crush your chest, then it's a pretty telltale sign that something's wrong in that moment. And the one suggestion I would make is that there are 2 other places that you can do the sternum rub. You can do it across the top of the lip and across the forehead or the eyebrow. And they've said in the trainings that Sarah and I have gone to incorporate into our trainings, that's better like in the wintertime when maybe people have many layers and it's harder to get
Right.
to their chest, or you just don't want to take their clothes off or whatever it may be.
Right.
But yeah, that's certainly an aspect of it. But we're trying to get the Narcan out to people. We're trying to train them on it. And to get back to that point of how people will react when they get their Narcan, the least likely in the study of over like 6,000 people was violent. So, if it may be something that you're hesitant to interact, just know that's the least likely thing to happen.
Well, they said that it more likely is to happen if you've given too much Narcan.
Interesting.
Although, well, that's what this person here told me. I don't want to mention her name because they're
No
not
worries.
supposed to have media or anything. That
No
she
worries.
wasn't that able to come to a show or anything like that
No
because they don't
worries.
want
Well, the thing what you were saying about waiting to give Narcan, the rule of thumb is 3 to 5 minutes. You should be administering Narcan. And Sarah and I preach that you probably want to lean on that 3 minutes of that because it's going to be the longest 3 to 5 minutes of your life as you're sitting there
Oh,
really
definitely.
wanting to help somebody. So we say administer it at 3 minutes and then continue to give breaths.
The beginning of the show was 3 minutes.
Yeah,
That
there you
song,
go.
it's like
You don't know.
it takes a while.
It moves quickly when you're doing something enjoyable. At that point, it's probably not going to be moving very quickly for you, unfortunately. But
Well, as long as you save a life, that's all that matters.
that's our big thing, and we also talk a lot about stigma and the language that people are using. As we know that can perpetuate that negative stereotype associated.
Which
so-
it drives me nuts.
It's tough, even when we're in trainings and stuff, especially people who this may be their first training around Narcan or overdose prevention. They just don't have as much knowledge as someone who maybe have experienced it, or someone who's been in the field for a while. And we really try to make it a point to people to say, like, hey, we understand the words that we hear, addict, junkie, druggie, but we're like, can we try replacing some of those with some words that may be more person-centered or more positive for individuals? Because they're already struggling with a lot. So why are we going to add to it by
Well,
calling
you know
them
what I
and
always say?
stigmatizing them?
They have their own stigma. They don't need
Exactly.
anybody else's.
Exactly.
A lot of them are upset with themselves for even getting involved.
And one other thing we talk about in our training, well, I feel like we're giving a sneak peek to everybody. So if you really want to come out, please come to this training. It's imagine being labeled or just defined by one characteristic of yourself. So you're more than just someone living in recovery. There's many other aspects to your life, and we really try to drive that home with people to
Well, look
to
at all
get
the
that.
people in recovery now.
Yep, yep.
You know, and get the help that you need,
Sure.
because there's so many jobs out there for people now
Mm-hmm.
that are recovering from addiction. Before, they would get out of rehab, and now we know that they should have at least a year and a half under their belt with sober homes and intensive, whether they're going to be on medication or not. If they go abstinent, would be better, but
Yeah.
unfortunately not all can.
Yep. Harm reduction technique.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, look, I'm all for everything. Even, how do you feel about the injection centers?
I am one I am all for creative ideas to help people. I'm one that says if we can create more options for people, that's ideal. I do think that medication-assisted treatment needs to expand so that people can have more access to it, and even doctors can have an easier time doing medication-assisted treatment. But if it's going to be something that's going to help people, then I'm all for it. And, I know the legality of it's up in the air, and I know there's been other countries that have used it, and I think the results, I'm not too privy on the results.
They're very, very
They
successful.
seem like they're working for what people are really trying to get at.
I remember we heard from David that said he was down at in Australia.
Yep.
His daughter was there, and he went in to visit, and they were having a very successful.
And for me, I think we were talking about it at the meeting that we went to last week where I was at, and you were at as well, about that's an opportunity to engage people in further treatment. It's not going to be the end-all, be-all.
Right.
But it's going to be...
They're not just going in there. They may be going in there to be safe and inject, but there's a thought process behind why they did it. First of all, to keep them alive, and second of all, maybe at that point, they'll speak to someone that's there about having themselves go in and recover.
And I think that's, for me, if safe injection is something people pursue, it's got to be done right. It's got to be done by individuals who know what they're doing, and that they can provide that type of treatment for individuals and understand the process. And I think we've had plenty of people who are experts in that regard, but, more options, I'm all for something that's going to help people.
Well, the mayor is on board with it, which is good.
I saw that, yes.
Were you sitting next to me at that meeting?
No, I was not there. No.
Oh, it was Doug Quest.
Yes,
Doug Quest was there.
My supervisor was there.
Right.
Yep.
And, when we were sitting there, I said to Joe, I said, just think about how many fewer needles would be in the parks or anywhere for the kids to get their hands on. I know there'll still be them, no matter what.
Decreasing that exposure is important.
Right.
I know that was he part of the group that went up to Canada with Cambridge?
I'm not sure. He didn't say that.
I'm not sure, but I know that Cambridge had gone up and done like a tour of one of their safe injection sites. And, I think it's part of the recommendations of developing more harm reduction techniques for people who need more options. And I'm curious to see how that proceeds going forward.
At first, when I first lost Frank, and I think it was Mike Connolly's aide had called me and asked me how I felt about it. And at the time, I was very busy doing so many things. I said I really didn't want to get involved in that. But then afterwards, I started to think about it, and I said, wouldn't I want my son to be alive? And if that was a possibility that he could have gone to an injection site, why wouldn't I want it?
I think it's hard when I get asked that question from the other side of people who are saying, like, I'm absolutely against it. I think it's just that people are afraid of the unknown, and they're not sure what that may bring. There's the stereotypes of, like, not in my neighborhood or things like that. But I would hope, or I'd like to think that we're past that point and that we're really doing a better job of getting people to understand that this is a chronic disease that individuals are struggling with. This isn't a moral failing. This is something that can affect somebody chronically over their lifetime, and that it needs to be treated as such.
Right. I agree with you.
So, it's a tough topic. I know that's why we do the work that we do and try to get the awareness and the education out there. But I think there's a lot of bright people looking at it. There's a lot of bright people trying to figure out what that may look like.
Right. We're all still trying to figure out what is the best way to help.
For sure.
Especially like CHA now. A lot of their doctors, well, there's 2 doctors that I know of. There could be more. But I've had Dr. Grossman on the show, and I want to have Randy.
She's great.
What's her last name?
Sokol.
Sokol.
Yep.
Okay. I wanted her to come on, but she was away at the time and couldn't make it. But I'm going to have her come on because what they're actually having their practice be including addiction
Yep.
from substance abuse, so that everybody in that room doesn't necessarily have a problem with drugs, and so it's no one knows what you're there for. And I like that.
More inclusive for
Right, and I
individuals,
like that instead of you going to a clinic that only takes care of substance abuse. All right, this way you feel like an outcast. Some people might feel like an outcast
Some people
having
may
to
not
go
wanna
to.
Yeah, so that may actually be a barrier for someone to go if they say like, well,
Right.
if I go into that building, people are going to automatically know what's going
Right,
on with me.
like I said, you have your own stigma.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't need others, so when you go in there, you're looking around and say, oh my God, is someone watching me?
Yep. And Randy's great. Her and I were on a panel for the addiction documentary through PBS that was shown at Tufts a couple months ago now. Wow, that was a long time ago now. And
Right.
her and I were the two-person panel, and she was great. I think she understood the medical side of things and also the community side of things, which I know can be challenging for individuals who may work in one field or work in the other. But it's that type of like melding that we need with medical folks and individuals who are doing like outreach services or outpatient services of how can we gel the two to make it most successful for folks to say, I may have an issue here that I have to work through. How can I access treatment? Not, I'm going to figure it out on my own or I'm not going to tell anybody, but how can I make it easier or how can we make it easier for folks to say, yes, I need to go and talk with somebody. And anything that we can do to help that, I'm for.
Me too. Like I said, if you can save one.
Yep.
We want to save more than one.
We
but
definitely want to save more than one. But, if and that's what Sarah and I say with our trainings, like, if there's just one person that walks away from here saying, wow, now I feel a little bit more prepared.
I can't wait to see it.
I'm glad. It's exciting. I think Sarah and I were like, let's see how it goes. And it's really caught fire since then. So, like I said, we'll have the one, I'll show it again. We'll have the one at Vox Pop on August 8th at 6:30. Anybody is welcome to join. Sorry, 6 o'clock, not 6:30. Anybody is welcome to join. It's open space. You can come, please. And then we're actually having a second one, and the flyer's a little bit different. See, it's a different color. But we're having a second one up at Column Health up in Davis Square. So they had reached out after seeing our flyers and stuff through the city, and they said, hey, we have a space. We'd like to kind of help you guys out as well. So they're going to help us out. They've done some flyering up in the Davis Square area. As we've done some East Somerville. We've done Union Square. We want to get up closer to there too.
Oh, definitely.
And so if you see this flyer, and if you're in Davis, you're probably going to see this flyer. I made it, so please check it out.
Nice job.
Thank you. Sarah always makes fun of me because she says I'm the graphic person, which I say my 10th grade computer graphics class is finally paying off. But if you want to come, it's August 29th, 6 to 7. Sarah and I will be doing the training. It's at Column Health, and we'll try to get more Narcan out to people as well.
That's great.
And in the meantime, those are just the community trainings, but if you have a company or you live in Somerville and you know a group of people that are interested in training, Sarah and I will come to wherever you may be.
Yeah.
So we'll go to a restaurant, we went to the, many different places that we never expected to be. We've done trainings in, restaurants or, just random places, wherever it can make it work.
No, I think it's a great idea because there's a lot of times that people overdose. Even how about Stop and Shop and those places? Have they come to you yet?
Not quite. The larger businesses, it's a little bit more challenging with the larger bureaucracy that they have to work within. But we haven't reached out to them directly, but there's been other larger companies that we've been trying to kind of figure something out. But I think the small businesses are definitely one that we're really trying to focus on, especially getting them resources. Some of the larger companies may have the means to get some Narcan and stuff, but they just need a little bit of a nudge. Some of the smaller businesses may want it, but they just can't. They got to pay for other stuff that they got.
Oh, it's very expensive, This.
It is, and that's why the city. I'm glad that Doug Kress, our director of Health and Human Services, has been very supportive. And
yay, Doug!
Thank you, Doug. And the mayor's office has been very supportive in getting us what we need to get this resources out to people. So anybody who wants it, just contact me. My information, I'm mmitchell@somervillema.gov. So email me, and Sarah and I will hit the road, and we will find you wherever you need us to be.
Or you could call 617-625-6600.
Extension 2570.
2570.
Yep. Sarah and I, we take our laptop, our projector, our screen, and we just set up wherever it may be. So bring it on.
September 22nd is
Yes.
going to be Somerville's 7th annual vigil.
Yes.
And it's going to be indoors.
Oh,
It's going to be over here in Union Square at Warehouse 11.
very cool. Very cool.
Yes, it is. And that's why I asked you if you would come and do a Narcan training
We
there.
absolutely will. It's a Sunday, right?
Yes,
Yep.
it's a Sunday,
So-
unfortunately.
Now, Sarah and I will be there.
Yeah, it's going to be from 2 to 5.
Great.
And I'm going to have a small buffet, so come hungry.
All right, I will do that for sure.
Yeah, no, I figured we could do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And where they have 2 rooms, one room I'll have grief groups, and people can go in and talk to the persons that are there.
Sure.
You know, I was thinking about getting some parents from Team Sharing as well. It's a group that I belong to. We go all over the place. We actually gone to D.C. several times, along with Dominic.
Yes.
And I'm going to
yes.
reach out to Dominic Esposito. Maybe he'll come down and bring his spoon.
Yes, yes. That's actually a good segue to the short documentary that we have going on too.
Why don't you ask him to come down?
I think Stuart, who's our wonderful tech guy here,
Yeah.
said that I think he's got the connection with him. So I think we're going to reach out to make sure we can.
Very
try to get
good,
him there.
because we reach out to each other a lot.
That's great.
You know, I think it's a great thing because we're, you know.
Hey, he's trying to spread awareness just like any of us. And
Oh yeah, he does partnership with other groups. We had a 5K for Team Sharing, which was in Marlboro, and he came and brought the spoon with him.
that infamous spoon.
Yes, and everybody signed it
That's
from
awesome.
Team Sharing, so it was really good.
That's great.
Yeah, he's really a great guy.
Yeah. For those
I
who
don't know if you know his story.
I do. Yeah. After being introduced to him through the documentary that we had done, I did a little bit of research to say like, what is going on here? And it was a pretty cool story. You know, I think the image of the spoon and kind of what it represents and kind of how people understand it, and then plopping it in front of big farmer places and things like that. You know, it gets people talking, especially when it's really hard to move. You have to like crane the thing out, I believe. But yeah.
So he's been partnershiping. There are 3 different groups that have really been working together, and one is Ryan Hampton.
Mhm.
You know him?
I do not know.
Okay. So I guess he used to work in the White House.
Oh, cool.
But he also is in recovery, and he's from California. And he did he's been doing some outreach, and he actually had us go down to Washington, D.C. to go in front of the FDA building, and Dominic brought a spoon and dropped it out in front, and we actually had press there, which was surprisingly, because normally that's the one thing that addiction doesn't have, is people that actually, when you have a rally, that they come and they really do tape it.
And they cover it, yeah, yep.
Yeah, they didn't cover it in 2015. That was the first time they had gone. And we had walked to the White House and, and try to get awareness. Now I find that more and more is happening.
I agree.
You know, that there's still a little problem with stigma, but they're talking more about it. I mean, every night there's something on TV about it.
Yep. And you're seeing different iterations of it, whether it be on the news or documentaries or articles. There's so much more now. And I'm not saying there's enough, because there's definitely more that could be done.
Well, we can see now, yeah. Did you see the picture that I had taken with the kids from Tufts?
No, I have not.
They invited me to come. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but in the end, I was very happy to. They asked me to come up and meet them at the cannon. I didn't even know there was a cannon at Tufts.
Okay.
They had painted it red.
Yeah.
So when I got there, they were spraying on it, a sack the sackless. And then I was telling them that there was 400,000 people that have died, and they started writing all this stuff on the cannon.
Well, I saw that the Sackler stuff has been going on, here in the city, but also across over the seas. I saw an article, and if you follow us on Facebook at /Somerville Cares, you'll get a lot of good articles. One was the Louvre.
Well, I think I
France.
copied yours.
You probably did, and I'll take that. That's fine. That's all I want. That they took their name, the Sackler name, off of anything that's in there.
Right.
That's a big move. Once something like that.
And see, these two
recognizes it.
students that came were actually trying to get Tufts to do the same thing,
Yep.
but unfortunately, they receive a lot of money from the Sacklers.
Yeah, I think it's Harvard too, right?
Right.
That there's a couple buildings and things that, money talks. And
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that that played a role in the opioid epidemic that we were still trying to get out of. There were some recent reports that it seems to be overdose trends are declining for the first time in a long time. Doesn't mean that there's a problem
I think it's because
solved,
of Narcan.
but it's definitely because of Narcan. But I also think it's the way that we're talking about it and the way that people are understanding it. And
See, before they had given the doctors the incentive to give people, give them prescriptions of OxyContin.
Yep. And the same thing for, where doctors were pushing them out, and people were getting large quantities of it and then selling it themselves and diverting it. And, we've come a long
Well,
way.
it started there.
It started there, exactly.
And where it escalated, how far it went, it's amazing.
It can go.
But now fentanyl and carfentanil are the leading, and meth. Meth
yeah.
is huge these days.
Yep. Fentanyl is by far the biggest fueler right now of this opioid crisis continuing. I think I saw some statistics. One of the statistics that
And
we have in our
85%
training
of the people that have lost their lives, it's
are
been fentanyl and
Yep.
carfentanil.
And it's been steadily rising since about 2014. And so I think the statistics said that the percentage of whatever drug was in it that experienced the overdose was which one was the highest, and fentanyl was going this way and heroin was going this way.
Right.
So
They say there's no heroin out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't say
No,
for sure,
no.
but I would say
I'm only
that-
telling you because I have no idea because I don't do heroin, but
Well, what we talk about in our training is that fentanyl is a lot cheaper for individuals to manufacture, produce, and sell. And what they're doing is they're mixing it in with heroin and selling it at that higher price and trying to stretch out the drug a little bit more. But what's happening is that the fentanyl is so strong and so potent that individuals are dying because either they don't know the fentanyl is in it, they don't know how much fentanyl is in it, and these aren't doctors or trained scientists who know what they're mixing. They're just trying to mix the batch, get it out as quickly as possible, so individuals will get money. And that's a reality that I guess we have to live with. But we're trying to kind of hope that the DEA and the people who kind of oversee some of that stuff will continue doing a good job.
well, if anybody's interested in knowing, August 2nd in Boston is going to be round 2 of the Maury Healy case against the Sacklers and the Purdue Pharmaceutical. There are lots of people coming in for that day. I will be there.
I'm sure.
Yes, a lot of people are coming in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And, of course, not all of us can go into the courtroom because it's very, very small. It's like on the 11th floor.
Yep.
And last time I was able to stay for the whole event, which was January 21st.
Wow.
And that's when the judge said that the 321-page document was going to be unredacted, which was great because people should know.
It's a big victory there. Just
definitely.
that little piece, because there really should be transparency when we're talking about this stuff at this point. For sure at all, but at this point we need to have way more transparency.
Right. So I'm very, very happy that at least it's August 2nd and I'm not back to work yet.
That's true. That is a good point.
Because I really would not want to take the day off.
For sure. It's tough.
Because I get, I'm a manager. I'd rather be where I'm supposed to be. But that's what makes it kind of hard. So that's one of the subjects that I was talking to you about earlier, where most of the shareholders' meetings are at the police station, and it's usually at lunchtime.
Oh, you mean, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yep. All the meetings, and I don't get to know what's going on in the city because of it. And I think that we need to have more communication, not so much for me, but for the people.
Sure.
And I think that maybe we should look into 311 and see what they have listed for addiction services.
Sure, absolutely. That's something we briefly talked about, and I think, yeah, why not? So that if anyone's calling in and they don't know, because that 311 is that opportunity where if they have a problem or something, they should be able to direct you wherever it may be. Yeah, why not?
I happen to have friends that are in 311, so one day she asked me, do you mind if I give you a phone number? I said, absolutely not. I want you to put down Somerville Overcoming Addiction, give a phone number out if they need help with addiction. And when they went to the police station didn't have any info. I think it was someone from Sober Mummies went over there and asked. And I said, well, they should have information as to whether or not, what kind of groups are available. Isn't there a GRASP group over there at Column Health?
I believe so, yeah.
I say a lot of people don't even know about that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so let's get more communication out there. Should I do that? Should I go to 311? Should I ask them why they don't have it?
Yeah. Hey, whatever you need I can do to support. I'm all for
it. Let's go together.
Let's do it.
No, I really do think that we need to let people know what's available. I know that sometimes people are ashamed or about what's going on in their families, but you really shouldn't, because it's not their fault. It's not your fault. You did a good job raising your children, and then don't be embarrassed about what's happening to them. It's unfortunate that sometimes even with peer pressure, even prescriptions that they were given by a doctor, they actually didn't want to get to where they're at when they're in addiction. So do whatever you can to help them. And I'm here, as well as Matt.
Absolutely.
As well as Patty Contente at the police department. You don't have to be in trouble to get help. You can even go to the courthouse and ask for help, and they will get you help. So just know that.
Just know there are options. And I think, like you said, we can do a better job of trying to get that information out to people.
Right, and we say, well, how can we do it?
Yep.
So let's put something together.
Yeah.
And let's give it to SCAT, and they'll put it, and let them have that, rolling advertisement.
Absolutely.
About what we can do.
I can do that.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
All right.
And we'll give that
Action
to Erica.
step.
And
I like it.
yeah, of course. They'll do whatever they can anyway, because they're
great.
community-based. That's what they're here for.
They've helped me. In my last year, I think I've interacted with them more times than many other people. And they've been helpful in getting some of this material out to people. And, we even trained them. They were actually one of the first ones we trained in the Narcan overdose prevention training. So the small crew here was able to get it. And they actually have Narcan on site. So if there were to have any...
And I'm here, and I don't even know that.
And she doesn't even know that. But it's right in the first aid kit. We leave it with them. And
no, that's okay.
All the staff here
As long as they're doing it, that's all that matters to me.
That is true. And it's good. It's a good segue, actually, to our other event that's coming up in about a week. So it's actually next Wednesday. And again, this is with Vox Pop, because they've been so great. A little bit before I had started, Vox Pop, or I should say the Somerville Media Center, and the City of Somerville's Health and Human Services Department decided to make a short documentary on opioids and how it impacts the Massachusetts, this region, but also particularly Somerville. And so when I had first started, I kind of came right into it as they were kind of developing, and I know you had a hand in helping some of the material get kind of curated the way that it did. And so we worked here with Stuart and Erica to really put together something. It's about an 20-minute short documentary, and I think it's great. I narrate it, so I'm a little biased. If you enjoy my voice, you can hear it again in this one. But it'll be on July 31st, next Wednesday. It's called From My Heart to Yours. We're going to have it at Vox Pop, 431 Artisan Way, and we're going to have a panel afterwards. I think you might be on it as well.
I think there's someone up there.
Yeah.
Did you hear that thunder?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It's coming down out there.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have a panel, including yourself, myself, and talk a little bit about how we made, and contributed to the documentary, but also what we're doing in the city to address it. So I know it covers our trainings, as we talked about here at length, and then some of, the things that we've done in the city. So
right.
I'm hopeful a lot of people will come out. We're gonna have a good time. I definitely think if you have some time on Wednesday night and you're interested in this topic, I would say for sure get to this. And so if I had to reiterate, I'll give it to the guys and they can circulate it out there. But it's been blasted out on our social media pages and our city pages. So get to it, please come. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
And then one final event that we have coming up,
Oh,
which
yes.
is our annual event, is National Night Out. So on August 6th, Tuesday, August 6th, from 5:30 to 7:30 at Foss Park, we will be having our annual National Night Out. So for those who do not know or who aren't familiar with the event, it really started back in the early to mid 80s, and it became an event where individuals in the community can bond or get to know some of the police officers in their community on a more informal way, more positive way, where unfortunately a lot of people have interaction with the police for more negative things. And I think here in Somerville we try to do a good job of not having that be the case. I would say our police chief does a good job of trying to lead the way with that. And we really adopted this, like I said, 16 years ago, to have this event. So in it we have performances, we have tables, we have food, we have anything that you can think of.
K9.
K9 unit, good one. How could I forget that? It's the most popular one.
Do we have the horses this year?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Well, they've been there before.
Okay. So, it starts at 5:30. We'll have some opening remarks from, the city officials. The mayor should be there as well. Myself will introduce it. We'll have the K9 unit. We'll have some performances singing. We'll have some teen empowerment will be involved with some things.
I'm sure.
Karate. We have not karate, sorry, martial arts demonstrations that are going to be there. And then we're going to probably have about 30 city departments or community partners there with resources. So, if you're looking for mental health resources, we're going to have some tables for that. If you're looking for health and wellness resources, we're going to be having some tables for that. So last year we had a great turnout. It was a great day. The weather was nice. It's right next to the pool at Foss Park. So if you're at the pool, just swing on by. It's a good area because it's a high traffic area.
Yeah.
But it's a good event. This will be my second time running it. I'm not a party planner at all. That was my first time doing it last year, and I'd like to say it went fairly well, and I expect to be the same this year.
No, it went well.
Thank you.
I will be there. Unfortunately, I won't be there with the table.
Yep.
All right, because first of all, the one thing I would like to do is to walk around and get a lot of those different departments to come on the show.
Sure. It's an opportunity to connect.
You know very well that a lot of times mental health issues are the reasons for people abusing any kind of drug, whether it's alcohol, anything to numb reality sometimes. And you have to take care of the mental health issues before you can take care of the addiction.
I think that was one of the biggest misconceptions by a lot of people to think that you needed to treat them separately. And, I think that what we've seen is that comorbidity is something that it's real. And, it's not one or the other. You got to treat both. And, for mental health, a lot of this contributes to substance use. And if you're not feeling great about yourself or you're not feeling a certain way about yourself, that may contribute to your feeling of needing to use substances, like you were saying. And I think we've learned a lot in that regard in society.
Right. So we have a lot of dual diagnosed programs, which is a good thing.
Absolutely. Yep.
We're still learning.
100%. It's evolving science. I think, once people start to think they got something to figure out, something else happens.
Absolutely.
It grows and it grows, but I would like to say that we have some of the better minds thinking about it and keeping it in the forefront of their work.
Absolutely. Well, my goodness, you did talk a lot about all these great things that you're doing. Anything that you're thinking about doing in the future?
We're doing a lot of different things. I know we focus primarily on opioids, but we are doing some work around e-cigarettes. I think I mentioned
that's
that
right.
in our last one, where we actually were the first city in Massachusetts to restrict the sale of menthol cigarettes and e-cigarettes to 21 plus stores. So effectively they're taking them out of convenience stores and you can only purchase them at 21 plus stores.
I think that's pretty wonderful.
It was something that, we really thought hard about because we're worried about the exposure to youth. If youth are going into stores and they're able to see these products, they're going to be more interested in them.
There's quite a few I think there's quite a few students or teenagers that are using e-cigarettes,
Oh,
and,
for sure.
and they have no idea that of the I mean, just recently, then they say in a study that it's causing
Yep.
popcorn lung.
Yep. Yep.
And the thing is, you don't want that. You don't want to take it, and the nicotine level
It is so much
is
higher.
is equivalent to 1 pack of cigarettes.
The little pod itself is equivalent to a pack of cigarettes or about 200 puffs. So
Right.
youth are rifling through it, no problem, because they just think it's water vapor or it's just nothing. It's not going to harm me. But I think it's been kind of misconstrued in the whole trying to use it as a cessation
Right.
project for tobacco products. It may be people are trying to make it safer, and it's like, well, is it just a different type of concern? And I think as the research and stuff is coming out, we're seeing that
It's just as
it's
bad.
just as bad for youth. For youth whose
We got
brains are
so
still
close to
developing.
almost getting rid of cigarettes.
Oh, I think for us in Somerville, I think the high school rate was like 3% cigarette rate, and then last year when we did the YRBS results, it was like 13% for e-cigarettes. So it went from I think 7% in 2016 to 13% in 2018. So 2 years, really, when the
It
e-cigarette
increased.
came, it increased.
That's a new
almost
thing.
Double. Yeah, it is.
It's a fad.
And there was
A fad that's going to kill you.
Yeah, I would hope it's a fad. I think I'm hoping it will come and go, but it seems like it's really kind of sticking around, especially with big tobacco investing in them. I know one of the big brands have invested now in Juul, and I think unfortunately, we've seen big tobacco techniques where.
Well,
it
maybe
comes
we have to have Bonnie get out there more
Yes,
and more.
yes.
I know she does a great job.
She's all over the place, and
And
she
I
was
know
a big contributor to
She
that,
did
for
a
sure.
great job when she was here on the show talking
Yep,
about it.
yep.
But it's just that they need to know that the e-cigarettes are really dangerous.
100%. And then some other stuff that we're doing. One more substance, and then another kind of future one that we have planned. We're doing some alcohol stuff, particularly around small alcohol bottles, otherwise known as miniatures or nips.
Nips?
Yep. And so what we've been doing is really taking a look at the littering of these products and kind of how that may impact exposure to youth. And some of the preliminary data that we've seen is they're littered across the city in
Oh,
many
yeah,
different
I see
cities.
them.
But where we really saw pockets were in areas that were youth friendly. So they're in parks, playgrounds, bus stations, and these
Along with the
places.
needles.
Along with the needles. It's funny, I haven't seen as much, which is great. I'm glad to hear that. When I was doing our assessments, we weren't finding as much needles, but there were nip bottles everywhere. And so we've been trying to work with our liquor stores and also our city council and stuff on figuring out what our next step is to address that. So we have some cool things that I think we're not quite there yet, but we're gathering some data and we're going to make some suggestions on best practices. And then we're also looking to do some gambling addiction stuff coming up.
Wow.
I know we've been really focusing on the substance world, especially since I've just known what before I started and after I started. But having a large presence that it looms over us shortly away in another city, we were.
You don't have to tell me. I went there 3 times so far.
We were concerned not only just about that, but just about problem gambling in general.
Right.
So much like the substances we talked about, gambling and lottery is saturated in our environment. You got scratch tickets, you got lottery tickets, you got people spending their checks on all this stuff all the time. And our focus is going to be problem gambling. There are that gambling where individuals do it, and to each their own. But we're really looking at trying to help prevent problem gambling for individuals that are youth, and they grow up in a society where fantasy sports, you got all these things that you can put money on that you're kind of born into this culture of betting. And we're really going to do something pretty cool probably next year around that. I'm not quite at liberty to discuss fully what it is, but I
Well,
can
then
say that
don't.
we're excited about it. How's that?
That's great.
So I think I covered all. Oh, and then I forgot about marijuana. That whole thing. Right now we're doing some stakeholder engagement where we're trying to get folks to give some feedback about some of their concerns, especially around the onset of adult use marijuana shops. And we're just looking at it from a youth marijuana prevention lens. So we're strategically planning on kind of how we're going to address things from a youth perspective.
Right.
So whether that's social norms campaigns or advertising campaigns or regulation policy changes, we're strategizing with some key folks to kind of create a plan for that. So
That sounds good, because you know what? Right off the bat, they think, oh, it's legal.
that's another misconception.
But you still need to be 21.
Yes, for sure. And I think it's hard when individuals are putting messages out there and youth are seeing some of the surface of it, but they're not really too sure what the full scope of it is.
I think they were kind of confused when it first came out and was legal.
Well, I think
Not only the consumer,
Yep.
but also the police departments, as well as, you know, I know that I was against the bill for the simple fact, I wasn't against legalizing marijuana.
Sure.
But I was against some of the things in their 12-pot plants in every house.
Yep. I think I think it's hard too when you see messages out there like marijuana is legal, and for kids seeing that, they're really kind of like, well, what does that mean for me? You know, and like you said, you still have to be 21. You still can't do it in public. You can't do it anywhere outside the privacy of your own home. And even then, there's some limitations if you don't own the home. And
Right.
you know, there's storage issues where, you know, if I have a child and they're going over to their friend's house, you know, do I now have to worry about how they're storing their marijuana so that my son or daughter isn't exposed to it? Like, there's so many little nuances to it that I think as we've kind of talked with individuals about some of their concerns, it's really coming to light. And then, like, the public use, as we talked about, it's making sure people aren't using in places where aren't smoking in places that are open to the public. And also, like you said, public safety and influence driving. You know, how are we going to be able to combat some of that where, you know, there's no breathalyzer for marijuana like there is for alcohol. So, you know, I don't envy the task of law enforcement having to kind of regulate and patrol this. But as we've seen, a lot of research, you know, marijuana influenced driving is just as bad, if not worse, than alcohol driving and drunk driving. So it's going to be interesting. You know, I think it would be naive of us to say that marijuana hasn't been an issue already, you know, with many people smoking marijuana
Well,
already.
you know, the levels of THC are completely
Correct.
unbelievable. I mean, was it 25 to 30%? Or is it higher than that?
It could be varied. I mean, I think at least in like the shops, there are certain percentages that they have to cap out at, like maybe 10% or something like that.
Right.
But
I know that when I was 18 and they were smoking marijuana, and now they say that the difference between back in the 70s and now, that the THC level has increased to 25, 30%.
the potency is, you can't even compare the two.
No.
It's a science now. You know, there are people who are there's programs now in colleges and universities that you can study marijuana, the science of marijuana, the business of marijuana. So it's going to become an industry. It already is an industry. And, you know, I think with industry comes a lot of money.
Right.
That also comes a lot of responsibility. So I know here we're really trying to encourage that anybody that's opening up adult use shops are doing it the right way and are working with our prevention, health and human services, the community, you know, so that we're doing it in a way that's not going to be detrimental to
So we have 3 medical marijuana facilities,
Yep.
and there is some money that comes back to the community. Is that for 3 years or 5
5 years.
5 years.
Yep.
3%
Yep.
for 5 years.
Yep.
And that we're going to be using it for education.
prevention-related education, awareness, anything that falls under that umbrella.
Now that we're having 12 pot shops that are trying to open up, will the same thing apply to them?
The 3%, yeah. So they'll be signing host agreements as well, and that revenue will come from their profits.
And
which
the
will come back
reason
to
why there are 12 is because there's a certain percent of liquor licenses. Is it if you have 100 liquor licenses, you have 10 pot shops?
So
Is it 10%?
The way that I understood it was it has to be 20% of the number of liquor stores that you have in the city if you are opening up, or if you've voted in that's saying that you can have it in your city. So we have to have at least 6. That's the floor. So I think the city council had said, I'm not city council, so I won't speak for them, but the city council has voted to have it be 12 in 2 years. So there's a cap of 12 over 2 years. But the minimum is 6 that we can have in the city at large.
So they're making you have 6.
That's the way that the bill was written, the way that you were referencing
like
it.
I said, I'm not happy with the way the bill is written.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Obviously, there's been other cities that have kind of opened up. Salem, Brookline, Boston, I think is maybe on the verge soon. It's going to be interesting. I think it's going
It's
to be
big business.
It's going to be big business for sure for individuals who are owning shops. It's going to be interesting with the I don't want to say competition, but the business. Between
Right.
shops. Having that many in such a small area, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. But my focus is youth prevention,
Right.
exposure. I'm really big on advertising and those type of things where simple advertisements that people may not think about otherwise, can have lasting impacts on individuals, especially youth. So we're going to take that pretty seriously, make sure that, the marijuana shops that open up aren't going to be doing anything that they really shouldn't be in terms of advertising and marketing to youth. I'd like to think that they're going to do what they need to do, but, we're going to uphold them, we're going to hold them to the accountability and standards that have been set by the CCC, the Cannabis Control Commission, for those that don't know, and then for the city as well.
Tell you, does this man know everything?
It's
He
been
is totally amazing.
It's been a whirlwind. This has just been. I tell Doug all the time, like I'm just a sponge, and I'm just trying to soak in all this information as much.
I
as
think it's
possible.
wonderful.
So, and
I'm
can
really
learn more,
proud of
so.
him. And he doesn't even realize
Well,
that
thank
our hour is over.
Wow.
We
that
actually
flew by.
have
That
to.
always flies by.
Well, oh my
As the
goodness,
thunder
hear that?
is outside, yeah.
Well, he's doing the right thing. No, seriously, it's like, I probably should really get down there to sit down and talk with you.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
I'm
because
open
it's
anytime.
great. It's great to be able to get this information. Like tomorrow, I'm going to go and see New Day.
Yep.
There's not really as many programs for women as there are for men, and now there are more and more opening up, and I'm very happy
That's awesome.
that this actually works with mothers that are pregnant and mothers that have children.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is really great. So I
looking
can't
forward
wait to
hear
go.
what you have to say about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, Diane Rose is going to come on.
Oh,
But
great.
she said that she wouldn't be able to come until September.
Okay.
So I might write an article in the next the paper. I didn't
Got
get
it.
one in this week, but maybe next week, where I'm going to go visit tomorrow.
I'll make sure to stay tuned.
Yeah, I'll actually put the article in for that.
Cool.
And I just can't believe it. Any last minute thing that you'd like to say? How to get in touch with you
Yeah,
again?
like I said, if you have any questions or anything related to substance use, give me a call, 617-625-6600, extension 2570, or my email, mitchell@somervillema.gov. And please come to all the events. I hope to see everybody that has seen this there. We're going to try to post these all over the place.
Oh, you can give me some.
I brought some for you
Yeah,
over there, don't you worry.
Because, did you go to the library yet?
Yeah, we're doing those too. We've
Okay.
hit those. We got teen empowerment. We got all these places, but social media. We got a lot of big presence out there. But we hope to see everybody at these. We put a lot of time and effort into it, and
Yeah.
I hope people take advantage of it.
We did.
For
No,
sure.
it was very enjoyable taking Stuart with me down to Connecticut.
That's right.
It was a long ride, but
It was worth it. Well worth it.
yeah, it was. So, look at my little guy there.
Yeah, he's hanging in there.
No, he's sleeping now.
Yep. I was gonna say he does pretty good.
Yeah.
He behaved himself pretty well.
I don't know. I'm hoping that he'll remain this quiet. If anybody doesn't know, I have a little puppy here. I just picked him up today. I've been calling him little guy.
I like the name. I do.
Yeah, you like that name?
Yeah, I think as they get older, they get a little bit more rambunctious. So
Well, I don't know.
enjoy these
He's-
days while you have them.
I thought they would be more rambunctious as a puppy. I mean, he actually doesn't even bark either.
Take that. Don't.
Just like a child when
Yeah,
they get
I
up
was
and
gonna say,
walk and
take
crawl
that.
and run.
Because my dog didn't bark at first, and now he doesn't stop barking. So enjoy it and then cherish it while you can.
Yeah. So I'd like to say good night, and we're going to get Stuart in here to shut off the machine.
Absolutely. Good night, everybody.
Good night. It's always a pleasure having you here.
I look forward to coming every time. I'm glad that we bumped into each other at the meeting last week. So
Yeah.
you're like, hey, come on in.
I love the Moore meeting.
Oh yeah.
I love Marianne Frangolis, and yes, September 16th is the recovery walk down from City Hall to Faneuil Hall. Please come to that too. I think I'm going to try to make it this time. It's taking the day off from work. You didn't hear that, did you, Lauren? But I will take the day off this year to go.
We plugged a lot of events tonight, so I expect everybody to be at every single one of them.
Absolutely. Good night, everyone.
See you later.
Thanks, Stuart.
Good night.
Did you say?
So yeah, I got a bunch for you as well.
Oh,
Figured
yeah.
I'd
No, I'll
print
take
out a
it and
couple.
use them.
No, I'll leave some.
Night.
I'll